So we are continuing from Canto 2, chapter 7, text 40. Amritwani, text number
14, Prabhuji.
14.
1.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Pishtaporubhayahasanarsimharupam Kitva Brahmadvikutidamstakaralavakram Dityendramashu Gadaya Vipatantamarat Puro Nipatya Vidadara Nakhe Surantam.
The personality of God had assumed the incarnation of Nrsimhadev in order to vanquish the great fears of the demigods. He killed the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, who challenged the Lord with a club in his hand by placing the demon on his thighs and piercing him with his nails, rolling his eyebrows in anger and showing his fearful teeth and mouth.
This is an incarnation of Krishna who's sometimes is hard to understand for people. Like such a ferocious incarnation, and sometimes people ask that how can God be angry? And how can anger exist in God? So much anger that he comes and kills this demon in such a ghastly way. How is this possible for God? Being spiritual means becoming free from anger and envy. We talk about becoming free from anger and envy and lust. But here we see God displaying so much anger.
Prabhupada actually gives such a nice example, right? That how a lioness, in order to protect her cub, will do anything. So actually what looks as anger is just extreme love and feelings of protection towards his devotees. And to this day, devotees will actually approach Nrsimhadev for protection. He's the protector of the devotees. And in fact, here in Mayapur, the deity of Nrsimhadev arrived because there was some attacks. And that's how, they said. And since then, there's not been any attacks, so he's... but also, I was thinking that it's amazing, and actually this is something I've been thinking about so much, that everything that enters into Mayapur becomes infused with Lord Chaitanya's magnanimous mood. So like, I think I was mentioning that even when we saw Ganga flowing in Kolkata versus Ganga flowing in Mayapur, she's different. She's acquired a different mood. Same thing with Nrsimhadev. He's so unapproachable and he looks so like intimidating. But here in Mayapur, he's just a father, a grandfather. He's just a protector. He's just so approachable, and his mood is so sweet.
Yeah, he's in the mood of Lord Chaitanya.
He's in the mood of
Lord Chaitanya, actually more Radharani. Everything is actually in the mood of Radharani in Mayapur because Lord Chaitanya himself is in the mood of Radharani. And that's the most compassionate mood. So anyways, this is a question for you guys. What is the meaning of seeing anger in the Supreme Lord when he's supposed to be free of all these lower qualities?
But it's kind of interesting. Can I say something?
Yeah.
It's interesting when Bhrigu Maharaj wanted to go around and check who's the Supreme Person, and he kicked Lord Vishnu on his chest. Then Lord Vishnu immediately got up and said, "Oh, I hope your feet is not hurt," and he started massaging Bhrigu Muni's feet. And previously he had gone to Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, and they both exhibited anger. And so that's how, we could see the supremacy of Lord Vishnu. And here we have Lord Nrsimhadev.
So we want to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
What is the meaning? Because anger is a quality of mode of ignorance. So how do you reconcile the fact that anger is not a spiritual quality, but yet we see Krishna exhibiting so much anger?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Hare Krishna Prabhu, I am thinking that anger is not as, sorry, Ramdham Prabhu, your turn.
No, you go ahead, Amritwani.
Go ahead, Amritwani. Go ahead.
Okay, so I am thinking that is not a mode of ignorance. Also, we can use this anger on a spiritual way also, right? Just like Hanuman example in the nectar of instructions. So then we can use that anger in turn to the ignorance to the goodness.
Very nice.
So, let me ask you a question. So, does it mean that when there is an opposition or some demoniac force, then as devotees, are we supposed to become like Hanuman and burn everything down? What
No,
is the meaning of using anger as Hanuman? I guess in a practical way.
I am thinking, Prabhuji, I am not that much pure, right? So I can't. So I am
No,
the
no,
fallen soul,
just
right? I can't use that.
okay. Go ahead, Prenda.
I was just on similar lines what Amritwani was saying, that uh, he's not being controlled by anger. We get controlled by anger. It's the other way around. He can control anger. He knows where to use it. And as you're questioning that, can like I've heard Prabhupada say that if there is somebody who comes and attacks your house, you have the religion would be to to counter that. If you just say, oh, no, I am a devotee and I won't do anything, Prabhupada says that's not religion. So anger, as Amritwani is saying, anger can be used, but unfortunately we are under anger's control. We are not able to control it properly, not use it properly, whereas Lord can use it because it's one of his energies. That's the way I was understanding it.
Thank you, Prenda. Madan Murari, go ahead, or Radhika.
This is Radhika here, Prabhu. I was thinking the anger which we exhibit is under the modes of control, right? Like we exhibit under the modes. But Krishna is the one who has created everything, and he is transcendental to all the modes. So this anger, envy, not envy, but anger and all these qualities are we exhibit under the modes, but Krishna is above them, and anything that he does, actually, it is for the benefit of everyone. And whenever he does something, it is not just that he does one thing. There are so many things involved in it. So it basically brings it's the ultimate benefit for everyone, even if whether it's anger or love, or so there is a saying, right? I heard it in your class only. There is no difference between Krishna's lap and Krishna's slap. So.
Actually, another place where Prabhupada talks about anger is when Lord Ramachandra is trying to cross the ocean, and then the ocean doesn't give way. Then Lord Ramachandra glares at the ocean, and then Prabhupada in that purport he talks about that the Supreme Person's anger. It's not like our anger. And just like Krishna's lust, so-called lust, or his dancing with the gopis is not like the ordinary dancing of worldly women. Worldly men and women. So it seems like, yes, he's angry, but like Radhika is pointing out, and Amritwani and Premnam were pointing out that it's of a different quality.
And that's why we still glorify Lord Narasimhadev because of this anger he exhibited. So everything that Krishna does is glorious and it's remembered.
Actually, Prabhupada says this in another lecture. He says that, if an ordinary person goes out and steals, he is a thief and he has to be caught. But when Krishna steals, then we worship him as a butter thief. And another example he uses is when a warrior runs away, then that's condemned. Krishna running away is a temple.
Is a temple. And I guess Prabhupada also says in another place that by meditating on the relationship between Krishna and his gopis, one can become free from mundane lust. And by meditating on this transcendental anger exhibited by Narasimhadev towards Hiranyakashipu, one can become free from anger. One can become free from this desire to take revenge and punish somebody. I guess, and then ultimately one can become free from this envy.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And yeah, I like that point a lot. It's actually, this is the meaning of the word all good. Actually, this is something I was thinking about like last week. I was thinking, we use the word all good. All good means that anything and everything that is done by him is good. There is no bad. There cannot be anything bad done by the Supreme Person.
Because he says Suhrida Sarvabhutanam, right? So it's not, he's a Suhrida not in some situations and not in others. We are Suhrida in some situations. The Supreme Lord is Suhrida always. So even Lord Narasimhadev's relationship with Hiranyakashipu is always Suhrida. And there's another verse in the past time, it's described that Lord Narasimhadev sat on the throne of Hiranyakashipu after killing him, and it says that the yogis, they try to invite the Lord to sit on their throne, but he doesn't come. And yet he honors Hiranyakashipu by sitting on his throne. To sit on somebody's throne means to honor him. So you can see how Lord Nrsimhadev still had so much love and affection for Hiranyakashipu. This was a pastime to actually send them back, But anyways, Krishna can never get angry at anybody.
Even apart from the pastime, it is perfectly all right for a mother to chastise a child. Yeah. It's not an act of anger; it's an act of love. So.
But I guess when it comes to our application, it doesn't mean that a devotee can get angry at any opposition. Prabhupada says we'll encounter so many opposing forces in preaching. We'll encounter so many opposing forces in relation to ourselves in our day-to-day personal life. So devotee is supposed to be dhira and tolerate all kinds of insults and tolerate all kinds of opposition. But if when a devotee sees that some devotee is getting offended or like that, or the Supreme Lord is offended by somebody, then a person can stand up and defend the person through logic and arguments.
Nice. I think that is a good point, that we don't fight for ourselves, but we don't tolerate the insults to another Vaishnava.
Anta sarashyurbalena pade grihito grahena yuthapatirambuja artaha ahedamadi purushakila lokanatha tirthashrava shravana mangala namadheya.
The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by a crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, "O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted." Such a beautiful verse.
Tirthashrava Shravana Mangala Namadheya.
Let me read Prabhupada's purport here. It's quite long. Let's see.
I think the Prabhupada is explaining the different meanings of these different words. And we at least can read a couple of lines for each of the meanings.
Yes, let's do that.
Start from here. The elephant addressed the Lord as Akhila Lokanatha, or the Lord of the universe, who is therefore the Lord of the elephant also. The elephant, being a pure devotee of the Lord, specifically deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile. And because it is a promise of the Lord that his devotee will never be vanquished, it was quite befitting that the elephant called upon the Lord to protect him. And the merciful Lord also at once responded. Akhila Lokanatha, the Lord is protector of everyone.
I like what Prabhupada is saying. The Lord is the protector of everyone, but he's the first protector of one who acknowledges the superiority of the Lord instead of being so falsely proud as to deny the superiority of the Lord or to claim to be equal to him. He's ever superior. A pure devotee of the Lord knows this difference between the Lord and himself. Therefore, a pure devotee is given first preference because of his full dependence, whereas a person who denies the existence of the Lord and declares himself the Lord is called Asura. And as such, he is given protection by the strength of limited power, subject to the sanction of the Lord. So this quality that we exhibit of being helpless and dependent is the quality ultimately that we are trying to cultivate, which is counterintuitive to what we try to do in the material world. We want to become self-sufficient. The whole purpose of everything we do is actually independence and self-sufficiency. But here we see that a devotee actually cultivates this mood of helplessness and dependence on Krishna.
So as we progress in spiritual life, this feeling should increase of our dependence on Krishna.
The elephant addressed the Lord as Tirthashrava, or as famous as a place of pilgrimage. People go to places of pilgrimage in order to be delivered from the reactions of unknown sinful acts, but one can be freed from all sinful reactions simply by remembering his holy name. The Lord is therefore as good as the holy places of pilgrimage. One can be free from all sinful reactions after reaching a place of pilgrimage, but one can have the same benefit at home or at any place simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. For a pure devotee, there's no need to go to the holy place of pilgrimage. He can be delivered from all sinful acts simply by remembering the Lord in earnestness. Then the Lord's holy name is called Shravana Mangala.
This means that one receives everything auspicious simply by hearing the holy name. In another place in Srimad Bhagavatam, his holy name is described as Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is pious act simply to chant and hear all about the Lord. The Lord descends to this earth and acts like others in connection with activities of the world just to create subject matters for hearing about him. Otherwise, the Lord has nothing to do in this world, nor has he any obligation to do anything.
So the last line is very nice. It is concluded, therefore, that the holy name of the Lord and topics in relation with him are always worth hearing, and therefore he is called here in this verse, Namadheya, or one whose holy name is worth chanting. So this is actually our primary activity in the process of bhakti, is to cultivate this attachment to the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And actually everything that we are doing stems from our sincerely trying to chant the holy names of Krishna. And the other day we were reading Madhurya Kadambini, and we were talking, we haven't gotten into that section, but there's a section where it talks about all the different kinds of anarthas. And then there are these anarthas that actually stem from the practice of bhakti itself. And the primary way that happens is actually through Namaparat. When we take this holy name, in fact, it is described that, one who chants the holy name in a negligent way, or, without giving proper attention, that offense is actually the root of all other offenses. So if we find ourselves feeling offensive, or we find ourselves committing all these other offenses, then that is where we start, by really being attentive in trying to chant the holy name. And then we will see that all of these different obstacles that we have will start becoming clear. That is actually the sum and substance of our Krishna consciousness, is how we chant.
I guess the holy name is the sword that cuts our attachment to matter, right? Right now we are kamadheya. We are just constantly thinking about material desires. And how do we detach ourselves? There's nothing that can cut that meditation other than Nama. Nama is Krishna himself. And the way we invite Krishna and keep Krishna in our consciousness is by paying him attention during our chanting.
So I don't know if anyone has any comments on this section, otherwise we can continue.
Yeah. Okay. Shutva haristama anarthinam aprameya chakrayudha patagaraj bhujadiruddha chakrena nakravadanam vinipatya tasmadhaste pragrihya bhagavan kripayo jahara. The personality of Godhead, after hearing the elephant's plea, felt that the elephant needed his immediate help, for he was in great distress. Thus at once the Lord appeared there on the wings of the king of birds, Garuda, fully equipped with his weapon, the wheel, chakra. With the wheel, he cut to pieces the mouth of the crocodile to save the elephant, and he delivered the elephant by lifting him by his trunk. I think the important point here is he heard the plea, and he was in great distress. So we've talked about this before, that, it's actually, bhakti is best practice on the knees, when we come on our knees, because as long as we are perched up, and as long as we are upright. In fact, I heard something very beautiful that really made an impact on me, that a single cry of love is better than 1,000 cries of victory, or something to that effect. I'm forgetting the exact quotation, but the idea is that a single cry in distress called out to Krishna is actually very much more powerful than the sense that we have sometimes, that I have conquered it, or if I have not conquered it yet, but I'm going to be able to conquer it just by dint of my own expertise. Yeah, it happens as we practice spiritual life, that we acquire skills and qualifications and achievements, and it creates in one sense, it creates a false sense of that I have become now bigger, and this is something that we have to very carefully guard against while practicing in bhakti, that our sense of helplessness should increase. Our sense of dependence on Krishna and devotees should increase when we're practicing bhakti.
And that could be a good barometer. That are we becoming bigger or are we becoming smaller? That's something we can check within ourselves, that in 10 years or in 5 years or in 20 years or whatever, have I become smaller or have I become bigger? And if I feel like I've become bigger, then that means what has become bigger? That's the next question to ask. What has become bigger? And we will inevitably find that actually what has become bigger is our false ego. So then the medicine has actually worked on a different plane. It hasn't worked where it needs to work. So we have to be very careful that when we are watering the plant, we want to make sure that we are watering the creeper of bhakti, and we are not watering the weeds that are surrounding the bhakti creeper and actually incidentally looks like the bhakti creeper. So we have to be so expert in figuring that out, and then we water accordingly. So I guess we'll pause here and see if you guys have any thoughts here. Prabhupada saying the Lord can hear from such a distant place, he can eat from there, and he can appear simultaneously in all places at a moment's notice. Such is the omnipotency of the Lord. I heard something really beautiful yesterday, that this is, I think, a little couplet from, I'm not sure who, maybe Kabir or, but anyways, it's so beautiful. It said that, the Supreme Person, he's not hard of hearing. So even if an ant is walking around with a little anklet around her legs, he can still hear that. So
that applies to this particular pastime of the Gajendra.
So yeah, go ahead if you guys have any thoughts. Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Mataji.
Yes.
So I have a question. Ajay is saying basic question. Basic question.
No, basic questions.
No, so this call in distress, or when we, what about when we call? So when we call Krishna in distress, but that distress is because of materialistic something attachment. Which you attachment, something you want, something like you want something to happen but didn't happen like you wanted, and that's what's bothering you, and you're in distress because of that attachment. Then when to call Krishna, what should we call for? We should call to get the situation sorted, or what, like what should be our mood to when we call in that distress?
This is not a basic question. This is a great question. Should we open this question up?
Yeah, let's see what you guys think.
Such a good question. Someone wants to respond to this question of Anshu's?
Let's stop here.
What do you guys think when we are going through a difficult time? If I understand your question properly, I guess your question is it all right to call out to Krishna even though it's a material distress? Or what should be the prayer? What are we calling out for? Take away my distress? Or what is it? Did I understand your question correctly?
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's
what should we be asking for?
What should we be asking for? Yeah, go ahead. I think somebody wanted to answer.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So, yeah, I think we often are like in that kind of stress in the material, and as long as we are living in this material world, our desires or our situations would be the one that will pull us down to the material modes again. But I have seen Guru Maharaj, like whenever he is praying, he prays and he at the end he says, Krishna, if you so desire. And that really, that really touched me. And I was like, even if Maharaj is praying to Krishna, he has the mood of accepting whatever comes as a result. So I mean, we can reach out to Krishna for all our problem because he is the one who's the ultimate, who can actually ultimately solve your problem completely. Nobody else can help us other than him. And so, yeah, like whenever I am in that kind of a stress, I always remember Guru Maharaj these words that Krishna, if you so desire, please help me solve this problem. And at the same time, I ask that even if you desire something that I may not accept it easily, please give me the intelligence to accept that this is your arrangement for me to learn something out of it. So
wonderful, 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 Nikunja. Very nice, excellent. This is very, very right on the mark.
Yeah, I guess there are multiple levels Prabhupada explains in approaching Krishna. The first level of response is, yeah, we want relief from that distress. And it's okay to approach Krishna to get relief from, like, I noticed that 2 verses are given to glorify this particular incarnation of Gajendra. For everybody else, there was only 1 verse.
That's true.
But for Gajendra, there were 2 verses. And so that means it's okay. It's okay for a devotee to approach Krishna to get relief, to beg for relief from material distress. But I guess the mood is, as Nikunja is saying, is Krishna if you so desire. And then Prabhupada also says that the next higher level is that, like for example, Haridas Thakur, when he was being beaten in the marketplace, he didn't call out to Lord Chaitanya, "Oh, please come and save me." He was just absorbed in glorifying Krishna. He was constantly chanting Hare Krishna, not to get relief, but he was just absorbed in glorifying the Lord. So even in great distress, a pure devotee just calls out to Krishna just to glorify him. He's not even thinking about his own distress. Of course, we are not at that level, but that's an inspiration that you can always look up to, that a devotee doesn't even care about his own, like there's a verse in the 6th canto, that Chitraketu is cursed by Lord Shiva, said that Sukadeva Goswami said, the devotee of the Lord Narayan, he doesn't care about hell or heaven, where he's put into. He's always busy just glorifying the Lord. So that is the next level that one can aspire for. Is I was thinking, if I have some difficulty, yes, the difficulty is going to pinch me, but can I take out 10 seconds in that difficulty, and instead of thinking about me, if I can just glorify the Lord, just for the sake of glorifying Him, that's a good positive step I'm taking. I'm changing my thought pattern.
I was listening to a lecture, very nice. I really like this point. I was listening to a lecture where they were saying that, which lecture was that? I don't remember, but that how the most important verse in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is actually that particular verse where Lord Brahma prays that how one who continues to offer obeisances with one's body, mind, and words, while at the same time suffering the reactions of one's past misdeeds, right? So that whole idea is actually and Rupa Goswami says that is actually the definition of pure bhakti. So when we are going through distress, if we can simultaneously tolerate, and at the same time, it is, Rupa Goswami also describes that how the act of calling out to Krishna for material protection for a devotee is within the realm of Shuddha Bhakti. It is not outside the realm of Shuddha Bhakti, because the body is a vehicle through which one renders devotion. So if a devotee needs that, or devotee needs, praise for that, then that is all right.
It's also expressing dependence on the Lord.
It's also, yeah. And we see that in even the pastimes of the Brajbasis, whenever they have any difficulty, they are not taking shelter anywhere. They just run to Krishna. We see Uttara running to Krishna. We see Draupadi, she finally raises her hands up and she calls out to Krishna. So we see in the history of devotees that whenever they are struck with any difficulty and they have no other shelter, they call out to Krishna. And then you have devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. And that shows that bhakti is not one thing, depending on different moods. It's not that one is less of a devotee because, Uttara reached out to Krishna, that she's less of a devotee. No. It's all different moods and different situations. She was also trying to protect her son Maharaj Parikshit, who was a pure devotee. Prabhupada also, when he was very sick, he told all his disciples to pray for him. And he told them about this Nashinga mantra, and he said, you can pray for, that if you so, like Nikunja was saying, if you so desire, Krishna, please allow our spiritual master to stay for, for a longer period of time with us.
But Didi, I have a question. In this regard. That then, what is the difference between a Sakam Bhakta and a Nishkam Bhakta?
Yeah, Sakama Bhakta is practicing bhakti with the intention of getting something from bhakti. There is a materialistic desire just in the premise of bhakti. In the conception of bhakti itself, is the foundation is the motivation is based on kama, some fulfilling some material desire, right? I go to Krishna to get something, and then when that thing is done, then
Maybe something else.
Something else. So the whole premise is kind of mixed with kama. Nishkama bhakti is I don't want anything from Krishna, but if there is a situation of distress like that, then
that is also Nishkama.
That is also, I'm just approaching Krishna to get relief.
Because I have to approach someone.
Yeah.
I need shelter. I need protection. Where am I going to go? So I have no other shelter in this world. Krishna.
If you are not going to anybody else for shelter other than Krishna, that is also Nishkama.
That's Nishkama. That's pure Nishkama. Right? So there's no, I think that's
Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Paripasate, right? That Ananyas, Prabhupada explains in that you don't go to anybody else, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. So, Yoga Kshema Bhamyam, right?
I carry what you lack.
Yeah. So what does it mean? If you don't, and of course, Prabhupada also says that a devotee knows that Krishna knows everything. But then why do we pray? Why do we pray? We know that Krishna knows everything. He knows our problem. We don't have to go and tell him for him to know. So then why do we pray?
Yeah, I've also thought about that. And the answer that really pacified my heart was that we are praying to show a dependence. We are praying to call out. We're praying to remember. We're using that opportunity to actually remember Krishna even more intensely. That's
Kunti Devi says, right? Send me difficulty so I can remember you more intensely. We are not used to remembering Krishna with intensity.
Helplessness.
Yet. So she's acting as actually, she's a pure devotee. She doesn't need difficulties to remember Krishna more intensely. But she's showing that by her example that we, in this material conditioned state, we need some heat to remember Krishna intensely.
And I was also thinking that at this point, we may not be able to weep for Krishna for the sake of weeping for Krishna. But what we can weep for is our difficult, distressed condition. Just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was praying, Ei Nanda Tanuja Kinkara, but I've fallen in this ocean and I'm being tossed around. Please kindly pick me up. Right? So that's a prayer that we can relate to because we know waves of the material world, we know distress. So we can use that to really say, okay, Krishna, lift me up. I'm really, really struggling here. And that is the ultimate prayer, actually, by the way, Anshul Prabhu, when you were speaking, I was thinking that while we do sometimes may want to pray for mitigation of our distress, but the ultimate prayer is for ultimate mitigation of our distress. We're just calling out to Krishna, just kindly lift me up. I am tired of being tossed around. I have served all these masters of mine. They have not given me any respite. I have basically, it was a terrible idea on my part to come to this material world. Now just pick me up.
Yeah, the ultimate distress is forgetfulness of Krishna. That is the root cause of our distress, right? Krishna, please give me your remembrance constantly.
So that is, I don't know, Radhika, did that help? I kind of.
No, thank you. That helps a lot. That helps a lot.
Thank you.
So the bottom line is, it's okay to go to Krishna to beg him for our relief from our distress, but at the same time, as Nikunja said, we always leave Krishna room how he wants to solve that problem, when he wants to solve that problem, right? I have a problem, Krishna, solve it and solve it now. That's not the right attitude to approach Krishna. He has his own timeline. So if we don't get a response, we don't get bitter and upset about Krishna. I guess that's where the real prayer happens. When
that's
you don't get that.
Yeah, actually, that's such a good point that the prayer, the reason why prayer is actually one of the angas of bhakti is because it purifies you. Because as soon as you place a prayer, then that waiting time, it's like you're continuously refreshing. Did it come through? Did it come through?
Did Krishna see my message yet?
Has he seen my message? So that waiting period is actually where our patience and our experience of love, everything expands. It gets stretched. And that's when we actually realize that, oh, I'm dependent on Krishna. And Krishna is an expert at doing that. You know, like even in the case of Draupadi, right? Of course, till the last moment, at the edge. So, yeah, prayer is very powerful and purifying. So I don't know if you have more time or we're done. So this is such a beautiful, sweet section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's see. That's what I'm saying. Oh, Vamandev. Okay, so that's a nice, yeah. Oh, the 2 verses of Vamandev. Such a nice section. Okay. It's so nice. We're getting to meditate on all of these different incarnations.
It's very interesting that in different places, the incarnations are described in different places. Like first Canto, chapter 3, the incarnations are described. It's very fascinating to see how the same incarnation is described in different poetic ways. It's very beautiful. Here it is described. Again, it will be described in the 3rd Canto, 7th Canto. Different places, the incarnations are described.
All right. So thank you. Yes. Should we end?
Any comments? Anybody else who hasn't spoken yet? Amrita, any thoughts from you?
Hare Krishna. I was just thinking about what you said, that as we go along in the process of bhakti, our with the intensity with which we should remember Krishna should go on increasing. So that was my takeaway from what we read today.
Tagline. You need a tagline.
Yeah.